This is the Light on Leeds podcast, and I am your host, Hazel Mullisham. On this week's episode, I have got Testament. He is a rapper, a spoken word poet. He writes plays, he's a presenter, he's a record holding beatboxer. Honestly, it's an unbelievable conversation. There's all sorts of brilliant little things that he tells me about. There's a great story about Idris Elba. He's doing all sorts of amazing things. You will find everything you need to find out in the podcast notes. I think that you will really enjoy this conversation. On this week's episode of Light on Leeds, I have Testament, who has remotely connected to speak to me. Hello.
Yo, what's up?
Thank you so much for joining me. I know you're a very, very busy person. So, Testament, this is a long list. You are a rapper, a spoken word poet, a presenter, a record holding beatboxer. You've written plays. Am I missing anything else?
I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I think I'm human, but I'll have to ask my wife about that.
You're a massive multitasker, basically.
It is at the moment for both me and my wife. It's like a lot going on, but like
I can imagine, yeah.
Thankful.
Exciting times, though.
Yeah, really exciting. There's some crazy things on coming up. Some of which I can talk about, some of which I can't. But some biggest things I've done so far. So I'm really excited about that.
So can you tell me how you started out on your multifaceted career? Like, where did it all begin?
Well, I grew up all over the place, like in London and then in Africa and Zimbabwe and then in Manchester. And then I came to, obviously the greatest city on earth, Leeds, to study English at the uni. But before then, I'd been rapping for fun and I got quite into hip hop and into jazz. Just so like mainly through listening to my brother's De La Soul cassettes, because that's how old I am. Like cassettes was a thing, and then so I was, and then I when I was really young, I wanted to be like the mixed race Robert De Niro, British.
Oh,
that was the ambition. And then when I got to about uni age, I started listening to Mos Def and rappers like that, and I was like, I want to be the British version of Mos Def. Especially because he's a multi-talented. He acts as well as perform as a rapper, actor rapper vibes in it.
Yeah.
Really, really good actor as well, actually. And and then I think in '97, some guys from uni got tickets to see The Roots in Hull for £6.
Wow.
And we went to see it, and it was like a tiny space. It's probably about the size of the hi-fi, but it was like the Roots were there with like legendary beatboxer Razel and stuff. So although I'd been like beatboxing and rapping for fun as a sort of a side thing, when I came to Leeds, I decided I wanted to make a crew. And when I saw the Roots, it was like, yeah, this has got to be a live thing. So I started up a hip-hop band in Boddington Hall on the outskirts of Headingley, on the halls of residence, and played the Halls of Residence ball, and then we ended up getting into some Battle of the Bands competitions at the Underground, which is on Cookridge Street, which is next to the Civic Centre.
Yeah.
Most listeners will probably remember that legendary place. It's before creation, right? So then we started. I won some Battle of the Bands, and then we started to get bookings at the Faversham through Fresh Jive, which is still a thing. Like it was the biggest hip hop night in Leeds back in the days.
Oh, really?
Faversham was huge. It's a huge deal. And then asked a mate of mine who had a car and a mobile phone to be my manager and stuff. And there was like we were a massive live band. It was kind of quite acid jazzy, really.
Yeah.
And then ended up playing like winning competitions to play Leeds Festival, and yeah, it was all right. And by the time I finished my degree, like we had a fan base and a following.
Wow.
And only a small one, but enough to like
It was still.
Yeah, enough for like labels to be poking around. And manager Gilla, he was like, the only real offer that he had was like if we wanted to become a boy band, which was not our vibe at all. So Gilla was like, yo, we need to start a record label up if we need to start releasing records ourselves to sort of to make it happen. And we built networks at that point as well. So I was good friends with Michael, who was like a DMC finalist DJ and a beat maker. There was Ivus in Hair Heels, who was an MC. He was a really close friend of my drummer in the band. Who else was there? There was rappers from Huddersfield like Jay Simple, um, singers like Lisan, who's in Burley, and all these different people that we met. And so we decided to, make records and release a compilation album under the record labels called First Word. And at that point, man, I didn't even know how to produce. Like, I would have to go around to the guitarist's house and use his computer and his like home studio to produce our music and stuff. And then, thankfully, someone actually like gave me my first laptop. This is like 2005, I think it was, and I started producing my first album proper. In the meantime, while I was learning how to produce, like a lot of the other acts, like Kid Knievel from Hair Hills, who was already a really, really skilled rapper and producer, like started blowing up and getting attention in the sort of national scene, and yeah, the label started becoming a thing. And Gilla and Andy H from Sheffield, so one person in Leeds, that was Gilla, and then Andy H in Sheffield, really, really took the label on. I was originally sort of the third sort of member. I remember setting up the PO box, but like I just needed to focus on being an artist. So
Yeah.
they ran the label, and now it's a really successful label. Won like Label of the Year, the Worldwide Awards like 2 years ago now, and
Wow, that's
releases
amazing.
music from like really some really great people like Children of Zeus now, and people that I sort of get regular radio play and are highly esteemed around the world. So it's really proud of that. And then when my album came out in, gosh, was that 2009? Yeah, so it's 4 years from like getting my first computer to when like we released the first single with like Corinne Bailey Ray, because when we used to tour, we used to take a singer with us, and usually it was Corinne Bailey Ray up until about 2007 when she got signed, and then it was a singer called Andrea Triana, who was also a Leeds resident. Now Corinne is born and bred Leeds, but Andrea came here to study and then became an amazing singer.
Wow.
And I also at that period, like I was comparing at club nights at New Bohemia at the Faversham, which was like a massive night in Leeds, like 700 people pretty much every week on a Friday night. So I was comparing, learning about how to rock a crowd that way, as well as just being
Yeah.
an MC. So all that stuff was kicking off, and the album, when the album came out, it blew up and got like some 5-star reviews in like the Metro. It's like everyone up and down the country reading like a double page spread on me, which was mad, and playing Glastonbury and
Amazing.
stuff like that.
Did it blow your mind, that level of, like it happening so quick?
Well, it wasn't quick when you think about it. Like from 1997, I'm starting a band.
Yeah.
2005, I managed to get a computer. 4 years after that, like I'm still not 4 years, but I'm actually recording the music, and most of the band have left Leeds to like go and become art teachers in London or paramedics or whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was comparing, I was gigging, I started teaching beatboxing, teaching rap in schools and things like that, whatever it took to pay the bills, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, comparing peace conferences randomly and getting flown out to LA to meet the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu and things like that. It's mad.
Oh my
Just loads
goodness.
of
That was quite an experience.
yeah, just loads of random stuff, like where you're just grinding away, and by putting yourself out there and by saying yes to things and pushing yourself, you just don't know where you're going to end up. So I ended up in all of my conversations and doing gigs in Norway with Andy H, and it was just mad. And I was a regular compere at massive student night in Sheffield called the Tuesday Club. So that's like 1,000 people every week, pretty much. So like having experience of being stood in front of hundreds and thousands of people every week, it's a massive learning curve. And
Yeah.
and the guests that you come through, so you get Mark Ronson do a DJ set, and they'd be like, "Oh, do you want to come MC for my DJ set?" I was like, "All right." So you get to like MC with Mark Ronson or hip
Gosh.
hop legends like Grandmaster Flash and people like that. So like you get to meet all these different people that come through, these two really important cities in the north. For Giller, it was great because he was running New Bohemia. He was one of the owners of New Bohemia, one of the two promoters with Noah Ball, Noah now runs like massive festivals internationally and nationally. And so you would meet like all the people in your, and the music was the kind of music that we were into. So you get all the big names in hip hop and broken beat and in jazz and in funk and in rap coming through your town, and you get to meet them all and ask them questions and sometimes make friends and make links and network. So that was great. So yeah, some of the friendships we made there like still last today. Yeah, so that's really heavy. And now, like from that label, you've got Kick and Evil, like in Berlin, having his music used on Nike adverts and composing for MIA and stuff like that. It's a kid from Hare Hills, So
Yeah.
um, just smashing it and touring, Singapore and Japan and all these places and working internationally. And then you get who else? Who else has smashed it from there? Michael is not only a DMC finalist. He became I think it was a year before, 2 years ago. He became the UK DJ champion. The DMC
Gosh.
champion, representing the country. So all these different people that we sort of blended with and made friends with. Some of them have gone on to do like really internationally famous things. Other people are back in the community. Like on that first compilation, there was a rapper called Jay Bravo. He's known in the lead scene, and not only is he a great MC, but he's a great advocate for Leeds, and he's also like putting it into the community as well because he teaches young people and bringing through the next generation of grime MCs and people like that. So these things, like, you put yourself out there and you don't know like where it's going to connect and things like that.
Mm.
But like the irony is that, like, well, it's not ironic because Chuck D said it before: don't believe the hype. And with the entertainment industry, like, there's the glamour of what things sound like or how things appear, and there's the reality. And the reality is on the morning that I was getting write-ups about me in Q magazine and whatever else, and double page spread, and I'm getting texts from people from all over the country. I've just get back from Glastonbury, like, is the same day that I'm working out, can I pay my council tax bill? I'm not sure if I've got enough money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. At certain points during that journey, I'm in a house in Hyde Park with bin liners for curtains and like insects in the bath,
Oh God.
and no central heating. Do you know what I mean? So like, there's the appearance of what things are like, and then there's the reality. And that reality is, it's a job and it's hard, and like, if you're lucky, if you get to do a job that you love, I think.
Yeah, 100%. So you must never get starstruck anymore.
Um, that's a good question. No, I'm 43 now, so like, yeah, it's funny. One time, me and Kick and Evil were doing a show. I was part of Kick and Evil's live show for a time as well, um, which is really another amazing experience. Um, Supporting heroes like Roots Maneuver and people like that. But
Amazing.
one time we were playing Kick and Evil's album launch on Oxford Road in London. So we did a Leeds launch and then a Sheffield launch and then a London launch. That's how we'd run it. And who was in the? I'm emceeing for Kick and Evil, and who's in the place? It's Idris Elba.
Oh.
And it was just around the time of the Haiti appeal, and he was really drunk. And he came up to me, he was like, "Yo, man, respect you as an MC," and da 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 da. It's before Luther, so I couldn't say Alice, no. I couldn't do my bad Idris impersonation, but he would string a bell because we were all like mad on the wire. I still am mad on the wire. So I got my photo taken with him, but I was like, he's like, I want to jump on the mic. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, Kid Knievel's my brother, man. Like, he's like family. Like, you can't come. He's in the middle of doing his set. You're not going to wreck his set. I don't care if you're off telly or whatever, or if you've just come back from Hollywood, whatever. If you're in a Thor film, I don't care. Like, you're not getting on. And then he was like, oh, please. And he sort of a few times asked to get on the mic. And I said, no. This is my boy. This is his album launch. And eventually she was like, no, he was like, oh, I want to say something about the Haiti appeal. And I was like, all right, fair enough. So after the appropriate moment, when the sort of set kind of came to an end, I was like, all right. So he just came on and sort of said something actually really positive about there was a bucket going around to support the Haiti appeal, which is very crucial and very important. So fair enough. But like, I lost that photo, which I'm a bit gutted about. But there's a few times I think, I don't think starstruck is probably not the word. Like, but
It's
definitely
just surreal.
You can be, but I mean, everyone poos, don't they? You know what I mean? Everyone wakes up with a little bit of saliva hanging out the side of their mouth.
That's what I always try and think.
Yeah. But like, I think the thing for me is I sometimes definitely feel awkward, but I think for me, like, just remembering that people are just people. I mean, it's funny, like, some people definitely are obviously still human, but some people are carrying something very special, and they've got something to say, or they're just the real deal,
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I met Desmond Tutu on the charity thing, this was the first time I was Denver, Colorado, and doing a conference out there, just comparing again. It's mad, like, I literally got that gig because someone didn't understand what an MC was. Someone phoned up the West Yorkshire Playhouse, as was before it got renamed again to Leeds Playhouse, and they called up and they said, we need an MC for an education event in Bradford. And the person on reception was like, okay. And she texted her son or whatever, who was Chris James, an amazing singer who was in a band with Kid Knievel, like a rock band, one of Kid Knievel's many projects. And Chris was like, oh, you need to talk to Testament. He's a proper MC. He'd be really good. So I ended up getting the booking to go to this education event in Bradford. And it turned out they wanted an MC, like a master of ceremonies, like a compere. And I was like, oh, do you want a rap workshop? Do you want me to perform? What do you want? And they were like, no, you just want you to compare. And I was like, oh, this is easy. This is what I do every Tuesday and Friday night, in front of hundreds of people. And I teach in schools anyway, so this is fine. So loads of high school kids basically got to spend a weekend with a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Wow.
And get inspired to go back to their schools and their communities and to be better people and to set up an anti-bullying scheme or to try and recycle more or whatever. It was very, very positive. There were literally like bullies that would go into that weekend and then come out feeling like, actually, you know what, I don't want to be a bully anymore. I want to help make the world better. In fact, the person I'm thinking of now works in Washington, D.C., like for a charity, trying to make the world better. Mad.
It is mad.
Yeah, literal kids from like the ghetto in Bradford and Leeds turning into, gosh, I'm trying to think, one of the people I'm thinking of now, like, was told that she'd amount to nothing and she had like tragedy in her family and stuff, and then ended up getting flown out to LA to meet the likes of Desmond Tutu and Dalai Lama, and then came back and wrote poetry and did community work, and now teaches drama in prisons amongst many other things. Just a really positive person. But at the time,
what a great inspirational story.
Yeah, it's mad. So, but literally that whole thing came just because of misunderstanding about what hip hop meant. But so when I first I compared, and the organisers from America are over, and I'm like, oh, this is really good. You should come and MC our like anniversary event. You should be one of our MCs. We're gonna have loads of MCs like compares. You should come and be the British compare, represent. And I was like, yeah, that'll be fine. Thinking, yeah, it's not gonna happen. And then 6 months later, I got an email asking for my passport number, and I ended up getting flown to Denver, Colorado. Me stood in the stadium introducing Desmond Tutu. But meeting Desmond Tutu backstage was really interesting. Like, they were like, when they were like, oh, do you want to meet Desmond Tutu? And I just bought like a book of his, and I was like, oh yeah, my parents were massive. I mean, I'm mixed race, and my parents are massive anti-apartheid supporters in the 80s, campaigning against that. So I was like, oh, if I can get a signed book, give my parents. So I go to meet him, and one of the organisers said, oh, he's just having a rest. And I went up, and actually he wasn't resting, he was praying. And like, it was just like, this guy really lives his spiritual walk. It was like, he wasn't just having a cheeky nap like you expect an old man to do, but like, he was trying to engage with God, with truth, with love, so that when he goes onto stage, like, he meant it. And it was a regular thing for him, so like, it was just like, okay, this isn't just a statesman. This is someone who literally is like doing something they really truly believe in. And there's people you meet like that, and you think, or like when I talk to Corinne, I went to uni with Corinne, and when you're with her, she's crazy smart. She's got loads of integrity, and she cares about people, and it comes across in the music. And you think, is this just a song about blah blah? But actually, no. Like the lyrics for her certainly represent who she is, and like there's reasons her songs are so like win Mercury, get nominated for Mercury prizes, and Stevie Wonder
Yeah,
calls her up saying, "I like your music." There's a reason for that. It's
of
because
course.
she's really genuine with it. So, yeah, I mean, so so the whole starstruck thing. Sometimes actually you can be like not starstruck but awestruck by people that are. It's not about whether Stevie Wonder phones them up or something. I can remember like rapping with this kid at Leeds Playhouse when I used to run workshops there, and this kid starts spitting and he start rapping about Tolstoy. He's something like a little kid from where was it, Little London. He starts rapping about Tolstoy in his lyrics. I was like, who's this kid? I was just like awestruck. I'm thinking, and I was really awestruck by him. And he's gone on to become a youth worker now, inspiring a bunch of young people. And you think, yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Someone who's got that like the unexpected power, unexpected quality, superpower. Like yeah, and who really people who are the real deal and follow through on they don't just like talk the talk, they walk it as well.
Exactly. So awestruck is definitely better than starstruck.
Yeah, totally, totally. And then that, I mean, because that's the thing, our society at the moment, it just pushes all about being celebrity, and you ask a kid what they want to be, and they just want to be famous, and but they don't want to say what they're going to be famous for, and like
Yeah.
what difference are you making, what what are you making, or are you just like wanting to chase fame, which can end up with just serious side effects, you know what I mean?
Oh,
So
100%. I think it's a huge conversation for nowadays, isn't it?
yeah,
This
for real.
this whole empty idea of celebrity and like what is that? And is that something that people should be aiming for? And like you say, what use is that when you get there?
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm just like, yeah, I don't know much about influencers. Yeah, this Instagram influencer thing. People, yeah, kids want to be YouTubers, or I mean, my kids want to be YouTubers. One of them does anyway, and they just want to make entertainment, and I think that's okay. And
Hmm.
an influence, I want to look good and have like a inspirational quote underneath a photo of me looking beautiful or whatever,
Hmm.
with flexing my muscles or whatever it is they're doing. Um, but like, yeah, you just think, well, what value, what kind of difference are you making? I think that's something like um, if you are gonna be sugar, so to speak, it's like, well, what's the purpose of that sugar? Like, is
Hmm.
there any medicine with that? Does it help them? Does it help some medicine go down? What's the vibe? So
Hmm.
I don't know. I think people just. I think once you get responsibility, once you have a fan base, you start to have a responsibility. I don't really have a fan base, so I don't, I don't have to worry about that too much. But yeah, if I ever did, I'll walk the walk.
Yeah, definitely. It's a difficult question, isn't it? Just the whole thing about, the internet and social media. And I think in some ways it can be difficult because we're still in it. We're still in the early days of it. So it's
Mm,
difficult for anybody to sort of stand back and be analytical about anything.
mm. I think
But yeah,
totally.
interesting
We're
time.
literally in the zeitgeist. We're literally,
Yeah.
but like I think it's funny. I was doing a bit of research. I was watching that film, American Psycho,
Oh yeah.
which is a brilliant but graphic and disturbing film.
Yeah.
And I discovered that the film version was directed by two women who are like really fierce feminists. Actually, one of them has gone on to write and create the film Alias Grace on Netflix recently.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I love that book and I've started watching that series.
thing, yeah. So yeah, I think, and then watching it with like a feminist lens, it's really amazing. And you get like women are so objectified in that film,
Yeah.
and it's disturbingly so. Um, yeah, literally treated like meat and
Hmm.
eaten at one point. Um, but it's funny because it's really about the 80s. That whole American Psycho is like a really like it's like a perfect. satire and a sort of breakdown of what happened in the 1980s and Reaganism and Thatcherism and all that stuff and all that self. Um, but the film didn't come out till 1991. I mean, the book was written in the 80s, but like it didn't hit mainstream, which is like, cinema, and become quotable and all that kind of stuff. And the sort of cultural reference points till the 90s. So you think, well, what's going to be, what go on now? You know what I mean? That's what I try and do in my work, is like try and catch what's going on now, or sort of respond to what's going on now, really.
Yeah.
And sort of, I once met a guy who called himself a prophet, and I think he probably was. And he said that artists are He said that artists are prophetic, in that they can tell us not what the future is, but like sort of in the old style of a prophet, which wasn't to say, oh, next week you're going to meet your wife and you're going to go tap dancing with President Reagan, but prophets, like, God is saying you have a choice. Do you want to do this or do you want to do that? So like the old style biblical religious type prophet, who kind of come to deliver guidance and advice and questions from the creator, from the universe. And I think artists can do that. When you look back at, I was just talking about apartheid before with Desmond Tutu, like a film like Cry Freedom, with Denzel Washington with a dodgy South African accent, manages to create, him and a white man, Richard Attenborough, managed to create a piece of art which offered a question to our society. It's like, are you content to be complicit in apartheid in South Africa, and to keep that, be happy to that regime to go, or are we going to say something about it? And that's almost like a prophetic sort of question. And art can do that, I think. Or even just like, oh, there's more black people in EastEnders now, so it's like we're prophesying that about being more inclusive. Or look, now there's gay characters, and it's like you see how quickly society changes when artists speak on things and share things. It's great.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. And I think, because it can be difficult sometimes, because there can be that conversation about, all of a sudden, all of the supermarkets are making adverts that have more inclusive characters in the adverts, or like a wider description of what somebody's home life might look like. Maybe same-sex parents, or
Totally.
mixed-race couples, and of course you can have that argument that it's cynical by the big companies, but I think you've got to sort of look at it in the long term, and it's great that people can see themselves represented in something just as silly as a Tesco advert, for example.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny, but it's the artists that make that decision first, like the black family that joke about gravy or your mum's sauce over dinner, whatever the Sainsbury's or Tesco advert was, or whatever the thing was. Like, the reason that advertisers are picking up on that is because they know that that's what sells, actually.
Yeah.
So it's by artists changing the cultural conversation and the sort of hegemony of things, saying, actually, you know what, like, no, gay people shouldn't be discriminated against. That's totally ridiculous. So then, of course, you're going to have in the Lloyd's advert, by the time 10 years later, Lloyd's will have like a man and a man holding hands as they go in for a bank loan.
Yeah.
And then everyone goes, oh, yeah, that's fantastic. And it's like, yeah, the ground's already been broken. But, I think by the time the advert happens, you pretty much know the argument's kind of been won.
Yeah, definitely 100%, because they only back things that are, definitely going to work.
Exactly. And if people kick the toys out the pram and say, oh, this is disgusting, da, 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 that's not the demographic that they're going for. Like, if Katie Hopkins or someone's like racist uncle starts ranting about X, Y, or Z, that's probably not the person they're wanting to sell that product to. So it's all the young people that are coming through with the new, sort of more hopeful, optimistic ideas.
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like we're living in, I mean, obviously there's all sorts of things that you could be depressed about. I suppose it depends on how you view everything. And life is absolutely not perfect. I mean, we just had the most weird last couple of weeks in politics, and then just thinking about the virus, and everything that's going on, food poverty, and people struggling to pay their energy bills, all sorts of awful things. But there are also loads of really positive changes coming along that I can see that make me feel better.
What kind of things make you feel better?
Just the conversations that you're hearing now, and You know, the whole Black Lives Matter movement, I thought it was absolutely fantastic when on the X Factor they did the big dance.
Oh yeah.
You know, all those little things sort of stack up, don't they? You know what I mean? And it's great. It amazes me that you can look at TV or music or anything from sort of 5 or 6 years ago, and you can see how many things are unacceptable now. And it
Mm.
seems to me that's I'm a similar age to you. I'm 45, and I feel like in my lifetime, a lot of huge changes have come to the fore. That I think is just great to see.
I think that's wicked. I think that's really exciting. Yeah, a lot has changed, and it's more than just video phones, isn't it? Like that's mad. That blows my mind. I can be abroad and talk to my parents
Yeah,
when I'm away, and wave at my kids when I'm doing the gig in London, and get out at 3 o'clock. Well, not 3 o'clock in the morning. They better be asleep by now. But you know what I mean. Just before I do
yeah.
sound check, say goodnight to them. That's big.
Yeah, and how amazing that we had that technology at our fingertips. No, well, not everybody did, of course, but you know, a lot of people were able to stay in contact through a time when we're all so, you know, obviously for really good reasons,
Yeah,
but we all had to stay separate, and it's
yeah.
great that we were able to keep connected.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. Like getting my parents who are proper old, like onto Zoom, like that was an achievement.
Yeah.
I think they've forgotten how to do it now. But yeah, mad. But yeah, we are very lucky. And the other thing that was nice during, especially during the first lockdown, was like people leaving stuff out for each other in the
Oh
streets
yeah,
and stuff like that, and looking
yeah,
out for the person, the old lady at number 54 and all that. It's good.
mm,
Um, like that kind of stuff, like
yeah.
makes you really hopeful.
There seemed to be a lot of sort of awareness of the community around you and how you could help and how you could look out for other people, which I thought was excellent. I mean, it's a shame that I mean, I don't want to get into politics, but you know, unfortunately, it's a shame that was so necessary because it, you know, wasn't exactly forthcoming from other areas. But I
No.
think it's a nice thing that, like, I feel like it's not like it's just sort of finished with, or well, we're not finished with the virus yet, to be fair. But you know, I feel like that. I don't know. There's a lot of really good positive stuff that came out of something so horrible.
Oh, entirely. I quite agree with you. We've still got a long way to go. You know
Yeah.
what it made me feel like? It made me feel like whatever situation it was, it kind of revealed the true nature of it. So
Mm,
if you were, I don't know, in a relationship where there were some issues, like it's going to exaggerate and sort of exacerbate something. If you're in a relationship with good vibes, then those are going to come out. Um, and the same with you, with your neighbors as well. Like people really showed like what kind of a neighbor they were,
yeah.
especially because you actually had time to like stop to a certain degree. Like even if you're working, okay, you're working from home, and loads of people started going for walks more and waving at people a bit more because you are actually at home. Um,
Yeah.
you might be able to have that like socially distanced conversation over a fence or whatever. So I just feel like it exacerbated the problems, and it also showed the good sides of things. So the gap between rich and poor again exacerbated, grew.
Yeah.
Injustice in some respects was exposed and grew,
Yeah.
and then kindness and compassion in some other areas were exposed as well. So um, it's definitely like a testing time, like a crucible. Like
Mm,
it shows what's underneath. Um, and I think, yeah, I mean, I'm being really lucky that at this point in my life when it happened, not only did the majority of my work become writing, which meant I could do it from home, which is hard with kids to be fair, but like I could still do it from home. So although like a lot of my music and teaching gigs disappeared and performances, my writing could continue. Um, so I'm very lucky. And then also I have three amazing kids and an amazing wife. So lots of like support and cuddles and fun and laughter and
yeah.
us working out in the front room doing doing exercise. I actually lost some weight for the first part of the pandemic because we started having dance battles in the front room first thing in the morning after our workout, which is it's a lot of joy. When you're trying to out dance a 5-year-old, you can't do it. You can't do it.
Well, I think it was great that you tried.
Yeah, we laughed a lot. Daddy would end up losing, but that's okay.
You can write in if you think that's not true.
Yeah,
And so, how did you get started with your work in the theatre?
All right, so the whole thing of the disparity between the glamour of music and entertainment and the reality is like the reality was is like I'm just traveling up and down on the National Express, but from Leeds coach station. Often, sometimes I get that I do a gig on a head row, get a coach midnight, gets to London in the following morning, have a McDonald's breakfast, yuck. Go to the Royal Festival Hall to perform with the beatboxing orchestra. Do you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
mad. So not the best way to start a family. And when we found out we were going to have a child, I started thinking, how can I change the parameters of what I do to still do what I love, still be myself, still hopefully have integrity, but in a way which might be better as a dad for a
Mm.
dad. And the Beatbox Orchestra actually, Shlomo and the Beatbox Orchestra was the group that I was part of. Again, I was doing all these different projects just to pay the bills. And Shlomo's really amazing entrepreneurial type beatbox man. He had changed the Beatbox Orchestra to not just be a musical show, but to be a theatre show with a storyline and stuff like that. So we weren't just doing covers of whatever famous tunes, beatbox style, on improvised bits and all cool stuff like that. But we actually there was a narrative, so he changed it to a show. And
Yeah.
it was during that period when I just found out that I was going to be a dad. I was like, oh yeah, hip hop theatre, totally. And all the hip hop theatre that I'd seen up to that point, personally myself, had either been like really cliche, like very cheesy hip hop, and some hip hop wasn't very good, even if the theatre was, and then or arguably the hip hop was good, but it wasn't very theatrical. And
Right.
and I'd come to Leeds to study English, hadn't I? So like I had read up on theatre stuff and done stuff at a few shows at uni as well as part of my students' union and things like that. So I had some sort of gauge on it, not mad experience, but a bit of a gauge. So I spoke to some friends of mine. I'd been teaching at theatres. I've been teaching at the Battersea Arts Centre at their Beatbox Academy, and I'd been teaching at Leeds Playhouse. And I started asking questions outside of the music sort of provision, sort of saying, hey, if I wanted to do a show, how would I go about thinking about making a show? So I got advice. And then the first people to take a punt on me was the Contact Theatre Manchester. And luckily the artistic director had my album. So he was like, oh yeah, I'll give you a week in the theatre to play around and to come up with ideas and things like that. And basically I used all the contacts that I made from music and sort of milked them. And I'd become friends with DJ Woody, like twice world scratch DJ champion, who was from Burnley originally.
Hmm.
So he came and worked with me that week, and that went really well. And then a Leeds theatre company spotted me called Little Mighty, and they put me in touch with Leeds Playhouse, and they basically sponsored, for want of a better term, and helped me with my Arts Council application to do my first ever theatre show, which was Blake Remixed, which ended up going to the Edinburgh Festival and getting really mixed reviews from like, this guy's rubbish, 2 stars, to this guy's amazing, 5 stars, like the whole gamut. But it got my
Yeah.
foot in the door. And to be fair, like there was a 3 star in the stage which said, it's pretty good, it's all right. That's probably the most accurate one. my
Take
first
the middle
effort.
one.
Yeah, it's probably most because I have some bits which definitely like played to my strengths, and some bits I was definitely like narratively really weak on and stuff. So, but it got me like the attention of like different theatres in the country, and it cemented my relationship with Leeds Playhouse. Who were like, yes, we want to support this guy, and he's trying to make theatre, he's trying to do something. We'll help him because he's got something to say, and he's mixing forms in an interesting way, doing hip hop theatre, but not as people normally see it. So yeah, that's what got me in there really. So it was quite a sort of calculated mercenary decision. Like, you know what, I don't want to have to get a coach to do a show in Brick Lane for 50 quid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was doing all them kind
Yeah.
of, I'll play a pub in Waterloo, which actually that was a great gig, that Waterloo gig. But Yeah, it's like a tiny room in Waterloo, like 50 people. But that was one of my favorite gigs. But yeah, so it was just about like trying to change the parameters. Um, and then really, really lucky after Blake Remixed, I was working on some other stuff, and Theatre in Manchester made me their supported artist, which meant they gave me a little bit of money to make something. And a theatre company in Sheffield asked me to uh, write. I'd written a few other things, and then a few years passed basically, and I ended up getting asked to write a play for Eclipse Theatre, which became Black Men Walking. And Black Men Walking was like a hit in the theatre. So I wasn't in it. It was me writing for 4 actors, and that toured like nationally and sold out and got great reviews in the big papers and all that. So that's sort of it's funny. Like I remember them saying, "Oh yeah, it's going to be on at the Royal Court. The show's been booked for the Royal Court in London," and not being in theatre, I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" And apparently, it means like you're in one of the top 3 theatres in the country, especially for new writers. So like the National Theatre is obviously massive, and then the
Yeah,
next ones that people go to for new writing is like the Bush Theatre um, and the Royal Court, both in all 3 London centric. Yawn, but it is what it is for now until we change that up.
yeah,
So it meant that little rapper guy from Leeds wrote a play which started getting national attention. Um,
amazing.
so that's now like writing is like most of what I do now. Off the back of that, I still perform shows, and like during the pandemic, I got commissioned by the Leeds Playhouse to write Orpheus in the record shop, and so I still love performing and I still love composing. This last year, I composed for an Adidas advert for the first time, and
Oh wow, that was,
composed.
I bet you were loving that.
Yeah, it was great, and composed some stuff for Radio 4 or Yorkshire Links again.
Yeah,
It was all through like the Adidas thing came through someone that I taught. Like I taught a poet, sort of an up and coming poets workshop at Leeds Library, and that poet was Asma Al Badawi, who's now like massive, massive poet. Um,
wow,
um, and so when she was approached by Adidas to write a poem for a new women's collection, she was like, "Oh, can we get Testament to soundtrack it, please? Because I'm really interested in his sound. I think his sound would go really well with this particular thing." And ended up getting the gig for that. So it's just
gosh.
mad.
But it's testament to you, testament to
Yeah,
all the work that you put in.
yeah. You go out there and you try and be nice to people and help people and encourage people, and yeah, you can go to bed at night feeling better. That hopefully you might be able to change the world, but you can nudge someone's world. You can bless someone else's world, and yeah, you never know where it takes you when you're going out with good intentions and like yeah, you're something normally will come back somehow.
Yeah,
So even if you go through tough times, which I definitely have, um, but yeah, there's people that will help you out.
that's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about Office in the Record Shop, please?
Yeah, so this is the really weird thing. So the pandemic happens. The government say are making noises that they're gonna. This is 2020,
Hmm.
um, and the government are making noises that they're going to relax restrictions for public events. Um, but it's not sure if they will because there's rumours and all this kind of stuff. You know how this government has been
Yeah,
doing it. It's not been very helpful. And all the
no,
theatres who've just lost loads and loads of money and support are desperate to try and put something on. But also, like I think, like Leeds Playhouse felt like a cultural responsibility to like, yo, we're artists. We want to support the city. We want to speak to the city. We want to be there for the city. We want to reflect our city. So they put on a socially distanced festival or they were hoping to put on a socially distanced festival, and they were going to collaborate with Opera North. So Opera North put on like a one-person opera because again, you don't want too many performers singing, like
mm,
breath going out there, particles flying around.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, socially distanced opera, a solo opera. And we're going to do a solo theatre piece, Samuel Beckett play, and then they wanted a new commission. So they've got like 2 things from the past and something new and contemporary. And because I use technology in my sort of solo shows, they were like, "Oh, yeah, Testament would be a good person," and I'd worked it up north once or twice before, and we'd worked well. And Leeds Playhouse were keen on getting me, so they booked me and they said, "Can you write us a piece a show that takes us from isolation to community? That's your theme." Because it was in collaboration with Opera North, I was like, "Oh yeah, we should totally like remix some sort of opera thing and repurpose it, sort of take inspiration from it." And the director, in conversation with the director, I talked about the kind of stories that I like telling, and she was like, "Oh, it reminds me a bit of Orpheus, the Orpheus myth." So I started thinking about that, and then when I was on the Zoom meeting, I stayed on a little bit too long, and I overheard the other bigwigs and the executives speaking about what they were doing in the other spaces. Like, "Oh yeah, we could put a violinist in the hallway, and maybe we could have some contemporary dancers with some whatever, with a harp player in the lobby or whatever in the cafe." And they were trying to do these things, trying to make all this festival like a proper big thing. And I realised that they had musicians on retainer at Opera North, so they've got musicians on a wage that they can use at any time. And I was like, "Yo, if we're going to go from from isolation to community, how about I start off my show just me on my Jones, and then as the show goes on, we'll put more and more musicians into the auditorium until we can fit as many as what legally, socially, responsibly we can do."
Yeah.
So every time my character does a piece, like a sort of a chapter or a song or whatever, or a poem, we'll add another musician to the ensemble. So by the time at the end, we'll have a small classical ensemble doing a live show. So I expected there were going to be like 3 people, like a tuba and a violin or something like that, but they ended up giving me 10 different people.
Gosh.
So and I compose as well. I write music as well, coming from that background. So as well as having like a one-man spoken word theatre show, literally like it's broken up in there's like, it's almost like a one-man musical. But as the show goes on, my character Orpheus, who's in the record shop, which is what sort of sit in the corn exchange, that's where the story's set. This guy's overcoming his sort of personal demons, so to speak, as he sort of meets new people and he has conversations. We add a harp and then a French horn and then some violins and then a trombone, etc., etc. And so you've got like a stage that's full of music. So it's a real joy to perform, and the musicians are like the best in the world. It's ridiculous, the standard of the musicians. So I'm writing really like mad hard arpeggios for the violins to play while I'm beatboxing on my loop station, and then doing a poem about Golden Acre Park, and it's going off, and people are cheering and crying and clapping and laughing. So that was really amazing experience, and it all happened because of lockdown.
Yeah.
So, and it went really well, and it went so well that BBC found out about it and they saw it. They sent people to see it, and they were like, "Yo, can we put this on TV, please?" So the following year, they paid. So we performed in the October, and then after negotiations and all this business, it gets we film it again in March, and it gets broadcast in April 2021, and it was on telly, live on TV. And then
How
it's
amazing. Did that feel,
yeah.
how did your kids feel about being able to see you on the TV?
Well, it's got a bit of swearing on it, so they can't watch all of it.
Oh,
It's
right.
only got a few swears, but
Yeah.
they're over it. They're totally over it. Like my kids don't care. I'm just daddy. He tells them, he tells them to hurry up and put their shoes on for school. So especially because like I've got stuff on YouTube, and these days like you can stream YouTube on your telly. So they've seen me on screen a bunch of times and not really interested. So me being on BBC 4 or whatever it were, it's not that much difference to them. And after like
No.
30 seconds, they're like, "Yeah, that's fine."
And people can still see that on iPlayer.
Yeah, so if you search Orpheus in the record shop, you'll see my ugly mug come up, and you watch a show which is like me playing. As you can hear from my voice, I'm not originally from Leeds, but the character that I play is from Leeds, so he does speak with an East Leeds accent. And and it's a celebration actually of Leeds in particular. Like yeah, the character talks about like a lot of places, especially if you're our age, like yeah, you'll recognize loads of the things that the character talks about in his past, and also like the things that go on today. So like the character of Orpheus had to go through down through the underworld to rescue someone, um, and he met all these different creatures in the underworld. And in my story, when in the opera Orpheus would meet the Furies, my character meets three teenage girls who've been excluded from school. Um, so like doing the show was like, again, because by the time Boris had made the announcement, we only had 5 weeks before we could do it. So I had to write the whole thing, music, the whole show in
God.
5 weeks. So I was like ringing up all my Leeds fam, really, like people like who are exclusion officers for schools, and talking to them about the common problems that they've had. Because actually, I wanted to talk about the stuff that the pandemic's brought up for me,
Yeah.
without it being about the pandemic. So we said before about the stuff that the pandemic has exacerbated or revealed. So like the problems with education, like have been very much under the microscope, and exams and stuff like that. The problems with misinformation and conspiracy theories, and like
Yeah.
who we believe and what is truth, like that's been exacerbated. Mental health stuff, depression, like all these kind of things. So all the characters that Orpheus encounters like represent different aspects of um, the things which have been brought up for me, really, and that I see sort of reflected in my friends and family's lives, and stuff that affects us. And the solution, is about us coming together and supporting one another. So yeah, that's the what music is a metaphor in the show. He runs a record shop, but he doesn't want anyone to come into. He's like a really snobby record shop owner. Like he doesn't want people to touch the records when they come in, and like you've got to have certain taste to sort of be looked at like a human by Orpheus. He won't give if you can't name whatever four like Curtis Mayfield songs off the top of your head,
Then you're not allowed
you're
in.
not allowed in. Yeah. um, so that kind of a person. So his journey is going from having all his barriers up to not wanting to let humanity into his shop, to finally sort of opening his heart, dealing with his sort of pain, and sort of actually realizing that it's okay. You can let people into your life.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'll definitely put links in the podcast notes to everything you've mentioned so that people can click through and get involved and watch and listen to everything that you've been doing. Are you able to tell me anything about what you're working on currently, or is it all top secret?
I've got a top secret thing for Netflix that I'm working on.
Oh, how
And
exciting!
yeah. It's not my baby. It's like someone's asked me to write an episode of something. There's another Leeds person which has been invited to do it as well, and it's nothing to do with Leeds particularly. It's just it's a sort of a very cult nerdy show, and I'm
It's
delighted.
sounding more and more interesting.
Yeah. But it's a fantastical show, which is not particularly based on real life, but like, so yeah, it's a fantasy thing. So that's exciting. I can't wait to tell people about that. That'll be, ironically, even though like not many people have heard of it, the people that have heard of it are like all around the world, and there are millions of them. So there's like loads of geeks have heard of it. So myself and another Leeds writer, we share an agent, and luckily our agent was approached, and he put our names forward, and we had interviews, and we managed to get the gig. Like, so she's writing one episode, I'm writing another. There's a couple of other writers on the project as well. So anyway, but I'll tell you all about that another time. You have to
Yeah,
keep
definitely.
keep. It's very very random and nothing like anything I've done before. But it's my first. It's the first TV thing I've written that will actually be broadcast. I've written a few TV things before, um, like specifically for TV. Like Orpheus obviously was a stage show which happens to be broadcast, as opposed to this, which is specifically written for telly. Or streaming really. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got some other plays coming up as well. But we don't know when that's going to be. Like that could be years away. Like you could finish a play today, and theatres are still trying to work out their diaries. And
Of
yeah,
course.
it's mad.
Well, I'll be very much looking forward to hearing about that, and you'll just have to come back on and
Hey,
give me more
I'd
details.
love to.
So you have mentioned that you went to university in Leeds. Obviously, you've not lived in Leeds your entire life, but
Mm,
you've been here more than long enough
yeah.
to answer the 3 questions that I ask
Go on
every
then.
guest. Are you ready?
Yeah.
So, what would you say is great about the city of Leeds?
It's a place that actually is quite open. Um, People are open. People are willing to have a chat.
Hmm.
I think Leeds. Like it's not like it hasn't quite yet. Still got a reputation for like a particular scene. I'd
Hmm.
say yeah. Like, oh, the Manchester scene on this, and the Bristol scene for that, and the London East London scene for that, and the South London scene for grime or whatever.
Yeah,
In terms of arts, um, even though it's got like powerhouses like Opera North, like Northern Ballet, like Leeds Playhouse, like loads of different cultural um, organisations that really punch above their weight, and like are really known. Sometimes like Phoenix internationally, Phoenix
yeah,
Dance. Um, However, like people don't talk about the city in the same way they talk about other things. But what they don't realise um, is that loads of leaders come out of Leeds.
hmm,
So like I know loads of people that started their career or have set something up in Leeds. Obviously, First World Records being close to my heart, but also um, people like Karen P, who now produces massive radio shows on Radio Two and things like that. Just people that started their film careers or scientists and people like that. So it's a great place to like where you can make a space for yourself as an artist and you can set things up. You can say, I'm going to run my own club night. And that it's no long thing for that to happen. You can meet collaborators, and you meet people that are up for helping. Um, so I think it's a great place to set things up. It's a really fertile place, and it's often the first place to do things, which is brilliant. And my prayer is that like Leeds gets a reputation, Leeds gets actually known for what it's done and what it achieves,
yeah,
because I think it's even though it's famous and it's now financially, a financial hub and all this. Like, I hope that people start to recognize it more for what it actually like what the people bring to it and what this
yeah,
city does.
definitely. I agree. It's partly what this podcast is for, to shout out about Leeds and all of the great things happening.
Mm.
If you had to go for something that you think is not so great about the city, what would you choose?
Oh snap! Um, ah, that's hard. Um,
Yeah.
uh, oh, um, something not so great. Ah, rare. The homeless situation is not great at the moment in Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think let's, and I think actually the wealth inequality is not that's part of that as well. So like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, it's not just Leeds, it's nationwide, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, totally. But it's just something. Yeah, that's something that's standing out to me more and more.
Yeah. Luckily, there's lots of amazing organisations and great groups of people out there trying their best.
Yeah, yeah. We need to. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's national things need to be done. More stuff needs to be done nationally about changing how things work.
Yeah, 100% behind you there. And if somebody had lived in Leeds for a very long time, would you be able to tell them about something that you would consider to be a hidden gem that they might never have heard of?
Right. Well, shout out to Released Records at the Corn Exchange
Yeah,
because you can find great music there, just standard, and it'll make you happy. Um, but actually, I want to. Uh, I'm going to tell you about just a new place that I found,
yeah,
literally in Leeds. Like we all know about Little Tokyo, which
yeah,
is incredible,
it is.
and one of my favorite places ever. But there's an I went to try and last Saturday. I went to Little Tokyo, but it was closed. It's closed till
Oh,
March. Um, but there is a brand. There's a that there's the Japanese restaurant. right by the wardrobe now.
Oh yeah,
That was gangster. I was really shocked by quite how good that was.
really.
Really different, different vibe. Um, yeah, it's called Saku with two Ks. I think one of the Ks is backwards, but if you search Saku with two Ks, that was serious food. Um, yeah, I was super impressed. Really different vibe to Little Tokyo. A completely different vibe. Like it's very dark and has got like these blossom trees, like illuminated blossom trees. So I went there
Oh, that
with the
sounds
kids, and
lovely.
it was like, oh, I'm in a movie. It was a bit like that. Whereas Little Tokyo, like, it just kind of feels warmer and cozy and stuff like that. Like Saki's got a different vibe. It's probably great for a first date, and it's kind of yeah, it's almost like tapas, Japanese tapas, basically. I don't know. I'm sure there's a proper word for that. But yeah, so that was Saki was off the chain. Like, can't actually believe like some of the stuff we ate there. It was incredible. So again, really different. And like Fuji Hero is another one. Like, I love East Asian food, and Leeds has got like, as far as I'm concerned, that's three like amazing places to eat.
Excellent. That's three really good ones. I'll definitely put in them.
Yeah,
Well, I've eaten at Little Tokyo, but Saku sounds amazing, and I've not tried Fuji Hero yet
Fuji
either.
Hero back at the Marion Centre.
Oh, I have actually been there, and it is amazing.
Yeah, but again, completely different vibe to Little Tokyo, right? It's like everyone
Yeah,
sat
yeah,
around, it's all
definitely.
wooden, and yeah,
Yeah,
eating soup, and yeah, it's
yeah.
a different, just different three. Like, it's just that's just so nice that um, a city can have three great East Asian spots without even having to do Wagamamas. I like Wagamamas, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
It really is. Do you know, there's a long running joke in my family where, because my family, I'm the only one in Leeds, my whole family live in Malton. And
Okay.
I don't know why Malton thought it was okay to do this. It makes me so cross. When you drive into Malton, it says Malton, like food capital of Yorkshire.
What?
And I'm always I'm like,
Flamingo
how
Land
is it?
capital, maybe, but that's about
I
it.
mean, do you know what I mean? I'm like, has it got half the restaurants that Leeds has got? It's got half the tables. No, it hasn't, and it should not. I blame personally James Martin. I think he's got something to do with it. He had some sort of big food festival there, and he thought it would be okay. But literally every time I past that sign, I'm like, no, it isn't.
Mad,
Leeds is.
mad.
We always ask guests to feature a song by a Leeds-based musician or
All right.
artist, and obviously you're in a perfect position to do that. Could you want to tell me which song you've chosen to feature and why?
I'm gonna ask you to play my best ever song, the song that I'm really most proud of, and that I still get emails for, even though it came out in 2009. I still get emails about. So it's a song called "I Don't Even Know." Um, it was recorded in a few different cities, like three different cities,
Hmm.
one of which was Leeds, and it features myself, Testament, also known as Homecut, as one of my pseudonyms. So it's Homecut featuring Corinne Ray, the Leeds Lioness herself, and another Mercury nominee from Birmingham called Soweto Kinch, who raps and plays saxophone on it. And yeah, like we recorded they recorded the vocals for Corinne's vocals on this in her front room in
Oh,
Leeds, and was it a back room? Back room. But it was like, so we had an engineer came over from Sheffield and we set up the stuff, and she just smashed it. Um, yeah, really, really amazing. Like, I don't think I can change anything about the song. I wouldn't, like most songs that I've done. I've go, oh, I wish I'd done that bass line a bit differently, or I wish I'd mixed the hi hat a bit higher, or I wish I'd used that chord instead of that chord, or wish my lyrics were a bit better on that third verse or whatever. But this one, I'm like, nah, that's pretty much the best I could have done. So this is, I don't even know.
perfect tune to choose then. And what will you be doing with the rest of your day-to-day Testament?
I have got to do some more work on a play I'm writing, which is all about Manchester, actually, the enemy, and it's
We'll
about
allow it.
how Manchester isn't as woke as it thinks it is.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so it's like a lot of my childhood was spent in Manchester, and yeah, it's very strange feelings about that city. A lot of
Mm,
love and but also anger as well.
mm.
So yeah, it's a play that takes place in three different time periods, like Victorian time and in the 1930s, and then also in 2019. So like 3 different centuries, and sometimes the stories happen all at the same time on stage, which is really exciting.
That does sound exciting.
So, yeah, I can't wait for that one. I think we're going to call that one Killing of a Manchester Man or something like that. I forget, but we're not sure yet. But yeah, that's for the Royal Exchange. So I'm very excited about working on that.
Excellent. Thank you so very much for taking time in your obviously busy schedule to come and speak to me. I'll put lots of links in the podcast notes so people can click through to all of the various things that you've mentioned. And yeah, good luck, and I can't wait to speak to you in the future.
Hey, it's been wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Peace.
Wow, I told you that Testament has done such an awful lot of things and is still doing many things. There are loads of podcast notes for you to have a look at where you can click through. Do have a look at Orpheus in the Record Shop, which is still on BBC iPlayer, and really enjoy this song where it was him as Homecut, his alter ego, with Corinne Bailey-Rae, I Don't Even Know. Enjoy, Leeds.
What's happening in this great city? We'll tell you. But wait a minute.
DJ Vadim, Butterfish Black, Homecut, the remix.
Gone again. I was writing glow-in-the-dark songs, an offering so I can give just a little bit of honesty. You in the wrong place if you're just complacent, but I wouldn't mind a change from this uphill arrangement. Must be something in the liquidation, leaving me dazed like the waves between a man and a maiden. Things didn't happen quite the way that I planned, but I wish it was Superman 1, I'd send the world backwards. I put my hands up, at times I get anxious, test my loved ones till we fall out like dandruff. I think I've been in more than once, like typing the PIN number but still insufficient funds. Struggling with stuff like suffering, God only knows, that's why I put my trust in him. I don't even know.
I don't even know how this flower will grow all on their own. Maybe you could help me out. I planted seeds long ago, tended them even so. Oh no, I hope that it turns out right.
How'd I get into this fixing situation? Missed another payment, they could take my whole home as a stipulation. Life's a sequence of inner stresses and irritations and a conviction. The bank's tampered with my mini statements. Which way to turn? Think of anal burst. Ex-girl ain't concerned, won't get his papers returned by April 1st. Cold approach and broken heater, no dough in the token meter. Too slow to switch it, overheated and blown the speakers. Can't even use the phone either. First day after the postal strike, never processed the payment as an oversight. Overnight, the phone box is broke apart. My overdraft so fast it needs lipo and open heart. If I'll ever find it's living simple, find a lady to give to or drift through and hit 60 single. Or if I'll be the kind of life performer who survives the trauma, or the type to never find a call and a die a pauper. Lord, help me see more clearly on the road. I drift weary alone, but I don't